Hi, and welcome to the Inspired Woman Project. This is Mikki Kingrey, and today I'm here excited to be with Sheila Davis. How are you?
Great, thanks. How are you, Mikki?
Wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here and to hear your perspectives. And I love, sharing everybody's story. And so I'd love actually for you to go ahead and start with telling us a little bit about your work in the world.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. I just think that women entrepreneurs are going to rule the world. I think that we have so much capacity and so much ability to do more than we're doing. And so I just think this is really great. So I forgot the question.
Yeah, well,
Can you edit
tell
that
us a
part
little
out?
bit. No, it's perfect. Tell us a little bit about what is it that you do and about your work in the world. Like, what is it that lets you know that this is your purposeful work?
Oh, great. Yeah. So I actually started out as a virtual assistant and really quickly moved into coaching other virtual assistants because it had come so naturally for me. And I started noticing when virtual assistants would come to me and ask me for, hey, how I'm doing this. What do you think about that? And I noticed that I was able to really reach a lot of women who wanted to be home with their children and be able to help them build a business and find clients that so they could be home with their families. And so for me, I feel like literally I probably wasted 20 years being an assistant to someone else and not working for myself. I missed out on a lot of time with my kids. And so one of the biggest purposes that I have as a speaker is to go out and to inspire women to do what they want to do. And there is no such thing as just a stay-at-home mom. When you're a stay-at-home mom, a lot of us, we forget who we are and we put ourselves second. And so one of the biggest things that I want to do is to be able to inspire women to put themselves not necessarily first all the time, but to not forget about who you are and
That.
to try and achieve the dreams that you want to achieve.
That's beautiful. So tell me a little bit more about this path that led you into this moment. I know that, for everybody it's different and it can very, very rarely is it of like, well, I knew I was going to be this when I grew up and this is what I am. So
Yeah,
what does that look
it's
like for
so
you?
true. Yeah, I never realized that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think somewhere in the back of my mind, looking back at some of the things I had thought about in the past, I thought maybe I should have recognized it sooner that that's what I wanted to be. I always wanted to be a secretary growing up. It was kind of funny. I would get my mom's files and literally just sit, and then I would pretend like I was typing and things. And so for me, being an assistant was something that I had always looked forward to. But when you're an assistant, I never realized that people don't value your opinion as much as they really should, right? So when the agents I was working for as a real estate assistant would not listen to my, hey, what if you did this? Or this would work better.
Yeah.
And basically they couldn't do the transactions without me. But they looked at me differently. But I'll tell you what really happened was a few years ago, my youngest two kids were, my two daughters were 7 and 10, and they got the flu. And they were really sick, 104 fevers. And so as a real estate assistant to 63 agents at an international real estate company, I was literally driving with my own computer 45 minutes to work, sitting at a conference table, working on my computer the entire day, driving 45 minutes back home with my computer.
Yeah.
So when my kids got sick, I really didn't have a choice. I messaged my boss and I said, I can't come in. My kids are sick. I actually had gotten a letter from my doctor to cover myself. It said they had the flu. They'd been tested for H1N1, right? So they were really sick. And he said to me, this is a quote. He emailed me and said, that's simply not an option. When will you be in?
Wow.
And I was like, it was like a slap in the face because I literally could work from home, which I did for a week and a half. I sat on my couch with my sick children, never missed a beat. None of the 63 agents knew I was even gone. But also during that 2 weeks, I realized that I had been compromising myself as a mother for my job.
Yeah.
And I was working 12 hours a day. I was missing school events, family events. I was worried. I got a note from my doctor that my kids were sick. You shouldn't have to do that. So during those 2 weeks, I started looking at options of working online, and I found the virtual assistant world. And by the end of that week, I had gone into the newspaper to look for real estate agents. I started calling them up. I'd been an assistant for more than 20 years, licensed assistant. And I picked up 8 agents who let me work at home, and I quit my job.
I love
And
that.
that was it. And so
Wow.
within the first week, I had 8 clients. Within the next week, I had learned how to build a website, learned about email marketing, learned about pretty much everything I needed to, the cursory part of it. And I started my dream, and I started working for myself. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was done. And I placed my income, and I was able to pick my own hours and be here for my kids. Not only that, I was saving $600 a month in travel costs.
Wow.
So I was happier than I'd ever been. It was the best thing in the world. And that was the day that I quit, that I realized I could never work for anybody else.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. See, and what I love so much about your story too is that you had the experience and you were committed to finding a solution, and so committed that you're willing to pick up the phone and just call people and really, come up with something creative that would work for you and your situation and your skills. And you took action, major action, and you made it happen. I think that's really cool.
Oh, thanks. So I'll tell you, it's funny. The broker who told me that it wasn't an option for me to stay home is actually who I learned one of my best skills from. If you want to succeed, you need to be willing to be told no 25 times a day. And he encourages all of his agents to do that. And I thought, you know what? It only took me 3 phone calls, which I feel really blessed. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it was the right path for me, and I was led right where I needed to be. But what is the worst thing that can happen is that somebody can tell you no.
Yeah.
And that's not your ideal client, so keep moving on. Pick up the phone and make some phone calls.
That's great. I love it. So what does it look like for you now? What is your new way of balancing being a mom and being an entrepreneur?
Well, I'll tell you, it took some getting used to. It was really a big change. It was exciting. My kids were excited. And of course, they see me at home and they think, that they can just talk to me anytime. But when you're on a deadline for a real estate agent, it was really tough. I work a lot of late hours, but there's 3 specific things that I do to manage. So I have 5 children. My husband has 3 children. We only have 3 children at home right now, so that's good. But I have 3 things that I do to be able to be a mompreneur. I do syncing, I do power hours, and I make sure I put the rocks first. So let's talk. Yeah. So syncing, it means that I am on a Google Calendar, and so is everybody else. Like for this podcast, I heard everybody's alarm going off that Mom's podcast was coming up. So they know Mom's going to be in a podcast. You can't record, you can't.
Yeah.
And then my kids can plan their school events right onto my calendar. So then I don't get any appointments during their school events. And it is brilliant. Google Calendar is like my hero. My second hero is the power hour. 3 to 4 times a day, I turn off my email notifications. I don't go on social media. I turn off my phone. I turn off a lot of times I'll have an iPad going with some music or something. And I do at least 3 to 4 power hours a day. And during that power hour, I focus on one project 100%. It's so hard for me because I think about other things. So I'll have a notepad to make a note to remind myself about something else, but I'm sure to focus on that one thing for at least an hour. And then I take a 15-minute break and I either clean, usually I eat, or go for a walk would be smart. But and the third and most important thing is I put my rocks first. I don't know if you've ever seen that image, of the jar, where if you put the big rocks in first, everything else will fit. So the big rocks are my family, and they are always in there first. The first Tuesday of every month is my husband and I's date day. We take the entire day. And so I put those kind of things in first in my life. And because I do that, my kids can respect more time when I say, you know what, today mommy has a deadline. Tomorrow they know that I'll have time for them. So every Friday night I spend with my kids. I take every Sunday off. I don't get on social media. I don't check my email. I do not take client calls in any way, shape, or form. Sunday is my shut-off day. And if I do those things first, then I'm okay. And every Friday morning, I go play volleyball with the neighborhood ladies. And so I take time for myself as well every week.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful and so
it
empowering.
It takes time to plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. But to really be the creator of your experience, like you've totally taken that into your own hands. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
take time for yourself. I didn't do that the first 2 years, and I burned out fast.
Yeah, it's such a big one. We all hear it, and it can be really hard to actually put it into practice.
Yeah.
And you can
Oh,
see my little
that's
friend is
okay.
homesick today too.
Yeah.
So see, that's what we get to do
Oh,
as moms.
that's okay. That's awesome. I love it. I've done a lot of videos and kids have come in the background. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's actually a video that I made with my daughters about how to be a
Oh,
mom.
I love it.
And they're all in the video. And so you can see they're playing with my hair while I'm talking and stuff. And that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Is because we're moms first,
Yes.
and we're entrepreneurs second, which is why it's mompreneur, not entrepreneur mom.
Yeah, I love it. That's so
Yeah.
great. So what is an area of challenge or struggle that comes up for you in your current space in which you've got working on?
Well, the hardest thing that I have to deal with, and it actually took me a really long time. I think I was an entrepreneur for probably 3 years before I ever shared with my followers that I suffer from severe depression. And I was really surprised when it kind of came out in a webinar by accident. It wasn't something that I had planned. And I started crying. I'm a crier. But to share my biggest weakness with them, that there are days when I can't get out of bed. And there are days when the sadness is so overwhelming for me that I can't work. But I'll tell you, I've started working with a coach recently, and I went through a little bit of a hard time in December. Usually it happens around the time I get sick. I really struggled to try and work through those 2 weeks that I was really struggling. And I was talking to my coach, and she said, why didn't you just take 2 days off and just do what you needed to do? And I said, well, my clients needed me. But in effect, if I'd taken those 2 days off, my client work would have been more effective. So I have learned to, you know what, this is something that I'm going to struggle with. And especially when being a stay-at-home mom and being an entrepreneur on top of it is like a double whammy to your system. So making sure that if I need a day, I just take a day, because it could turn into a week. Once it turned into 4 months. Yeah. What if I had just taken that time that I needed right at the beginning to give myself what I needed? Then, and honestly, I have never talked to a client who told me, no, this isn't acceptable. When will you be doing my work?
Yeah.
I simply explained, I can't work today. And they said that was fine. I've never lost a client because of it. So I'm not going to let myself do that anymore. I'm going to take a day when I need it. And, my 2 goals for this year are no regrets in 2016 and to have an epic year. And I think to do that, I need to recognize that I have it and take the breaks that I need. And that's my number one biggest struggle, is just suffering from that depression. And I know I was really surprised, like I said, how many other women were struggling with it. And it was comforting and sad at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why I really want to go out and speak to women and say, you know what, it's okay. Embrace it. It's part of us. Do what you need to do, whether it's herbs, whether it's meditation, which I do every morning, whether it's I don't know what, yoga. I don't do yoga, but I know that's good for some people.
Yeah.
So take the time that you need when you're struggling with your biggest struggle to accept it, realize it's there, deal with it, and then move on. And your clients are dealing with the same stuff.
Yeah. And I love too, just that, when you do take the time on a regular basis, you end up saving time in the end. So
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I ask all the people who come here, because I hold the belief that everybody's definition of success is different and that it changes over time. And I'd love to hear, what is your definition of success right now?
Yeah. Well, a little bit more personal information. So I actually have been divorced twice. And in those 2 marriages, and I'm very happily married now, but in those 2 marriages, I had 2 very different experiences. My first marriage, I supported our family by working outside the home, and my children went to daycare, and it was really difficult. And I lost myself during that time. And in my second marriage, I was actually a stay-at-home mom. I didn't have to work, But I had a lot of really great ideas that I wanted to develop for myself. And they were I was told I couldn't. I wasn't good enough. Nobody would ever listen. It wasn't a great idea. One of the ideas that I had come up with is now making someone else millions of dollars. And I went and showed it to him later. And I'm like, okay, see, if we'd done this, we would have been millionaires.
Wow.
It was a recipe idea. Where people could enter in the food that they had, and it would print out like recipes they could do. And then it would print out a shopping list for the next week. And you could just take it on your phone, how brilliant. People are paying them, I think $5 a month, 1 million people, $5 a month for that app.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. So my definition of success is that my children and family are happy and taken care of, and I'm happy and taken care of. And I'm achieving the dream that I want to. No matter where we are in our life, I'm 20 years older than everybody else I'm competing with in my industry. But the fact is that sadly, it just took me this long. But now I'm going to do what I want to do. And my kids are adorable. It's nice that they're older. They call me their rock star mama. They actually changed my phone. It says rock star mama on it. So if you get an email from me for my phone, it says rock star mama. And they call me the #1 coach because I was doing coaching for a while. And they tell all of their friends, and they check out my website. They have actually gotten on my list, so they get all my emails, which is really funny.
Cute. Oh, I love it.
That's my definition, that my kids and family are happy, and I can live my dream that I want to have.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
And you keep it very top of mind and very focused. So I love that too. That's great. Thank you for sharing and being willing to be vulnerable and share your story. Because you're right. It's when people hear that it's not just them, or that other people go through stuff too, even if their stuff is different, it still lets it be more okay and lets us move through things in an easier way. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And
yeah.
if people are wanting to find out more about you, where can they go?
You can just go to a bit.ly short link. It's just bit.ly/chat with Sheila. And it's a capital C, capital W, capital S, or